What did you make of farmers' response to the red tractor proposals today?
I never heard any farmer that was in favour of whole life assurance. It was quite obvious with the questions that was put to the top table that the majority are yet again against whole life assurance, and most of all they're most against the fact that it hasn't been consulted on. They've put a consultation on delivery, and admittedly they are now saying delivery is an aspiration as opposed to it has been agreed. But nonetheless, if anybody was looking for a mandate, the mandate is clear from the meeting there. Nobody is in favour of whole life assurance that put forward questions to the floor this evening. Despite the chairman not really wanting to have a vote from the floor, a vote was asked for, and undoubtedly the majority of hands, the vast majority, a big majority, hands went up saying no to whole life assurance. So, you know, if you've got to take away anything from that, that must be what the meeting takes away.
I thought it was another performance from the Red Tractor people against their producers' wishes. And we really feel that they've got to start to understand they've got to listen to their producers. Because otherwise we're going to see a rival scheme brewing up. And if they don't,
scheme where?
Well, I think we'll find that if farmers have no choice at the moment. We're in a monopoly situation, so we're asking to see what happens if they don't listen to what we're saying. I think you will see a group of farmers, an organisation from a farmer's background that will come together and say, let's have a competitive situation. And
this issue about farmers not being informed came up a lot.
Yes.
And John Thorley's response was, actually, you're on the board. You're all part of this. The NBA is part of this. The NFU is part of this. Bill, the NBA was party to these discussions. Why weren't your members better informed? And did you oppose this in those discussions?
The NBA's never had a position on the technical committee, and we found out over the last 6 months where the rules are really made. We've had a place on the Beef and Lamb board, and John Hoskin has recently taken that place, but we've never had anyone on the technical committee, and that's the committee we have the issues with, because we believe they're the ones that are driving the Refresh Farm standards, and we also believe that the whole life assurance thing is being driven by the overall RTA board, not by the Beef and Lamb board where we have a representative.
Can this work? Even if Red Tractor go ahead with this, the opposition that we've seen in the southwest and here and generally around the industry suggests that it's going to be very difficult to implement it, even if it does go ahead. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think it will be very difficult for them to implement now. I think they have misjudged their situation quite completely because they simply refused to consult on the decision yes or no before they went for the delivery mechanism, and that's what's annoyed farmers. Farmers have been quite happy to go along with Red Tractor thinking they were representing us, but when it became clear that they were actually dictating to us, farmers are really rising up and saying we want some say in this and we don't want to be treated like idiots.
Are you surprised at the vehemence from the floor at that meeting?
No, not particularly. I think we, as part of the consultation process, we've expected people to come and express their views. It was very disappointing to be here in the Midlands and find a lot of farmers who we spoke to 2 weeks ago in the southwest having to come and hear the same presentation again.
The big concern that overshadowed everything else was the perception that you have decided already to go ahead with this. And in the consultation, it says the board has decided. My initial soundings from you were that the consultation was about implementation. Mm-hmm. You've softened your stance, haven't you?
Not particularly. It's always been an aspiration of the Beef and Lamb Board, and they've seen that this has been required. We've talked about this to the retailers over the last 5 years, and they've insisted that this whole life assurance be delivered. So this is the next step in that process. So 4 years ago we went to them and talked about it. They insisted that it be delivered. They've subsequently come back to us and said, why hasn't this been delivered? So we go out to consultation to see how we could potentially deliver it. So it's an aspiration.
So we go out to consultation to see how we can deliver it.
Yeah.
If there's an overwhelming response from farmers, such as the one you've heard here in the southwest, against this,
yep,
would you drop the idea?
I'm only one member of the Beef and Lamb Board. You know, there's other people who have to take views from their members and equally hear.
But is it feasible that the board collectively would? Is what I'm trying to say.
It is feasible that the board potentially would, but there is a significant underlying response to the consultation which is positive. So we had at the Red Tractor Beef and Lamb office, we've had a number of positive responses that have been fed back to us already. In addition, there has been some negative ones, and if I had to pitch it, it's probably 50-50, which seems disappointingly to have split the industry almost down the middle.
And finally, if you do go ahead, given some of the strength of feeling that you've experienced, how feasible is it going to be to get that number of farmers that you need to deliver this?
Well, I really genuinely believe there's a very simple mechanism by which people can sign up through the cattle rearing register. The market will very clearly drive that, and by the market I mean the finishers will insist that they're buying stock from a cattle rearing scheme farm or from a cattle rearing register farm, and that will be all of the incentive that those people will require to join the scheme.
And how many do you need?
We estimate there's about 14,000 beef farmers that are not assured presently. That doesn't mean that proportion of the beef cattle are not assured, because remember, a lot of these are smaller producers, and that's why we've introduced or proposed to introduce this cattle rearing scheme, which is going to be relatively easy for smaller producers to join and relatively low cost.